Welcome back to the ICC review, Ricky. It's so wonderful to have you back. But to start things off, we want to back ref to the previous episode of the ICC review, where we spoke about Virat Kohli and his form, and that got some attention from the Team India coach, Gautam Gambhir. Despite you saying that Virat Kohli will make runs in Perth, when you see media coverage like this between both the countries, does it just remind you of how big this Border-Gavaskar Trophy is?
Yeah, look, it certainly does. I mean, I think whenever there's a series like this or an Ashes series, the build-up is always, heavily spoken about and talked about through different aspects of the media. And there's so much media coverage on Australia-India series, probably particular in India, with obviously with the teams being here at the moment, and a lot of the media probably still being back in India. Look, I was a little bit surprised with the response I got from Gambier. I thought I was pretty measured in what I had to say, and never write off a champion and expect players like him to bounce back and play well in Australia. But yeah, I think it does. I think series like this, everything gets amplified. So the pressure on the players goes up. The media talk and chatter and speculation on certain players and conditions and all those things get amplified. And there are so many outlets now as well for people to view their opinions and stuff. So look, I've seen it happen before. I was a little bit surprised with what Gautam had to say, and it seemed like it sort of created a few different reactions from a few people over in India as well. So at the end of the day, maybe what I had to say might just add a little bit more to the series. Who knows?
Fantastic. But staying on that topic of Virat Kohli, the front page headlines, the hype, it's already begun here in Australia. We spoke to Ravi Shastri earlier and he told us that this is where he got the title of king. What about the man generates so much interest here amongst Australian cricket fans, according to you?
Oh, look, he's a star. He's a superstar. Has been a superstar of the game for so long. He's passionate about the way that he plays. He's passionate about his team. He wants to win. He plays with his heart on his sleeve. And, that's what superstar players generate and create all around the world. And, there's lots of different degrees of that. You talk about the media here and the following that Virat has in Australia. That's on the back of having been here and played well in the past. You think about other players like, someone like Steve Smith that goes to the UK and gets booed when he walks onto the ground. I mean, that's all part of, I guess, the theatre that comes with international sports. So, yeah, but I mean, someone like Virat, and I had a look at what Ravi had to say about being the man that wanted to take all the bullets in Australia last time, and that's what you expect from your leaders and your star players. Because when you travel abroad and you know that the country's against you, you know the home media's against you, you need to have your senior players stand up and be the protectors, if you like, of the younger players in that side. So I've got no doubt that that's the way Virat will approach this tour. Rohit Sharma will approach this tour. Bumrah will approach this tour. The senior guys really need to stand up and lead the way on the back of a disappointing home series against New Zealand.
The media most definitely has started to make things spicy off the field, but do you think there's room for spiciness between these two teams when they take to the field here in Perth? Do you think there's still space for intimidation and banter within reason within the modern game?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. I don't know if spice is the right word, but I expect the game to be played sort of almost on the edge, if you like, with two of the best teams in the world, not wanting to give an inch to each other, not wanting to give an inch to the opposition, not wanting to lose a single contest through the course of those whole five Test matches. And I think that's the beauty, I think, about these great rivalries we have in world sport. And I've spoken the last couple of days about. Australia-India in a test match now, it's as big a rivalry as there is in world sport. Not just cricket. It's, Australia-England, yes, with the history of the Ashes, but, Australia-India is not far behind that. And it's built up over a long period of time. And, I think we all look forward to these sort of battles. As a past player, as a commentator, I want to see these two teams go out there and play hard and fair and then see who is left standing at the end of the next five games.
Going back to that previous episode of the ICC review, you predicted that Nathan McSweeney will be the one who opens for Australia, and you were on the money. He has been selected. We saw an interview of him on Instagram recently where he says that he admires you, he admires your style of captaincy and your pull shot. What would you have to say about him and his selection in the side?
Yeah, well, first I didn't know that Nathan sort of looked up the way that I played the game, or even sort of looked at the way that I tried to captain the teams that I did. But it's nice to hear those things every now and then. It probably just goes to show my age a little bit as well, doesn't it? That someone that's come in his early 20s coming into the Australian team was sort of looking up to the way that I played the game. But no, look, he's got a lot of challenges ahead. I mean, yes, I predicted that he would open the batting because I didn't think they'd go back to a Harris or a Bancroft. They had the chance to do that last summer and decided not to. So it was then down to McSweeney and Constas, and McSweeney just had not so much the runs on the board, but just had a bit more experience, and he's captain Australia A. I know he's been talked about a lot as a future leader and a very very good, cool, calm character and customer around a cricket team. So, and he's got a nice looking technique, but at the end of the day, it's what he's done for South Australia through his first class career is going to be completely different when he steps out, over at Optus Stadium in just over a week's time and faces a really high quality international bowling attack, and he's opening the batting. I don't think he's actually played a game at Optus Stadium in his life, so that's a challenge within itself. And then when you put the level of fast bowling up on top of that, then there's some challenges there for him. But he seems like the sort of guy that might be able to handle that. So yeah, we wish him all the best and hope that he can do a good job and cement a place at the top of the order for Australia for years to come.
What then would be your advice to him for opening on this Perth wicket, given that we know it's going to be hard and fast? I don't know if you've had a chance to speak to him yet, but if you did, what would that conversation sound like?
I would probably say to him not to overplay the conditions, not think too much about how fast and bouncy this wicket might be. At the end of the day, it's a cricket pitch, and as a batsman, it's no different than any other place you go out to bat. You've got to give yourself 10, 12 balls, 18 balls to get used to the pace and bounce and get a feel for how the wicket's going to play. But yeah, don't overthink it. And then if you happen to get through that period of time, then just trust yourself, trust your technique, and work out the best scoring opportunities that you have for your game on that wicket early on. So somewhere like Optus Stadium, the bouncier wickets. And the wickets that tend to move a little bit early on, and there's always a lot of grass on that Perth wicket. There's always a lot of grass on the Brisbane wicket. So, I always found it harder to look to drive the ball early on those wickets. For me, and because I was quite adept at playing off the back foot, I tended to look to defend a little bit more on the front foot and wait for the bowlers to drop short, and then try and maximise my scoring opportunities off the back foot. So. I've seen Nathan play well off front foot and back foot. I've seen him play that pull shot that he's talking about quite nicely as well. So, but he's got time. He's got days over there now to get to practice on pitches quite similar, and then to work out a game plan, and then make sure that when he gets out there in the middle that the nerves don't get the better of him. That he can think nice and clearly, and then make sure he gives himself the best chance to execute that game plan that he's worked out.
The Australian Test players were rested in their final ODI against Pakistan. As a legend of the ODI game and a coach of the modern game, what are your thoughts on that decision?
Yeah, well, looking back at it, it must have been something that was decided a long way out because, with the series being 1-1, Australian cricket teams don't like losing. The Australian public doesn't like to see their team lose, and I think that's been highlighted over the last few days. I think Australia left 6 or 7 of those players out of that one-day team to rest up, and I think the thing that the public probably found most frustrating with it was how big that gap was between the third one-dayer and the first test. I think that's the thing that people can't really fathom. But the other side to look at it is that these boys have now got to get through 5 straight test matches in quite a short, compressed amount of time. And certainly for the fast bowlers, that's never an easy thing to do. And so I'm sure the plan was to give those guys that break, ensures them of getting through to the end of the test series a little bit fresher and healthier than they might have if they had to travel to Perth and play that one-day game. But, that being said, we saw last time that India were here, they were battling more than Australia. They had all sorts of injuries on the way through and still found a way to get up and win. So, the proof will be in the pudding. They decided to go that way. They lost that series, the first time they lost a series to Pakistan in Australia for 22 years, and now they've got to turn up ready to play that first test match and look to find ways to win the series.
A lot of history being created in the lead up to this Border-Gavaskar Trophy with New Zealand beating India and Pakistan beating Australia. But this is a WTC shaping series. It's going to be pivotal, this Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Knowing where both these squads are, India and Australia, who do you think is heading into this series better prepared and why?
Yeah, better prepared. I've been reading a few things the last couple of days. Sounds like India have had a few completely closed sessions. No media, no one allowed to get in and look. So they're obviously trying to close things down and work really hard and try and find a way to bounce back from that series loss against New Zealand. I mean, the Australian loss to Pakistan, really being a one-day series, shouldn't have a lot of effect on the test team. And the topic that we're just talking about, the fact that they rested all those players should mean that they come into that first test fresh and raring to go. So, look, preparation's always a hard one to get right, because I've seen guys like Travis Head in the past where they've almost had no preparation at all going into a game, and then turn up and play one of the all-time great innings. You see other guys go in with great form going into a test match and don't make any runs. So I think it's not so much the skill side of it. I don't think, going into games or series like this, it's making sure that you're nice and fresh mentally and physically. And because with this game, your skills don't ever leave you. They don't go too far away. But as long as you're thinking clearly and thinking the right things, then you can make your body do pretty much whatever you want it to do.
You mentioned Travis Head. He is no doubt a big time performer for Australia, but he also got the better of India in that WTC final last year. What about him poses such a big threat to this Indian side?
I mean, the key to his success has been his attitude. That's the thing that has changed. How sort of almost carefree he's been with his batting. He's we used to talk about Adam Gilchrist being the ultimate sort of see ball, hit ball player. Well, Travis Head is exactly that. Virender Sehwag was that sort of player. These guys where they don't ever think about potentially making a mistake and getting out. They just think about scoring runs, and that's been the change with Travis. So his mindset's what makes him most dangerous, but because his mindset is like that is the reason I think he's had the success in those bigger games. He doesn't put any more pressure on himself. He's played the same way in those big games as he has in any other game. Whether it was the World Cup semi-final, the World Cup final, the World Test Championship, big games, he stood up and found a way. And, I know when I was playing, one thing I prided myself on was making sure that I had a big game in the first match of a series, because if you do that as an individual, you do that as a leader, you have a chance to set up the whole series for your team. And no doubt Travis will be thinking like that. A lot of the Australian guys, Steve Smith will be thinking that way. Labuschagne hasn't been in the greatest of run-scoring modes either of late. So those guys will all be thinking that same way. But I think because of Travis's attitude, that allows him to get the job done under pressure.
And for India, there's been a lot of chat around Dhruv Jurel, who's done well for India A recently. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he looks like a high-class player, doesn't he? His knock in at the MCG, actually, in the second Australia A, India A game was of the highest quality. Goes in under pressure, steadies the ship, makes a really good 80, I think it was. Probably deserved to make 100 on that occasion, but look, he looks like a real high-quality player that I think if an opportunity presents itself somewhere in that lineup, he looks like he could walk straight into that test team and almost bat anywhere in the order. So, look, we know that there's a chance that Rohit Sharma might not be there he won't be there for the first test match. So India need to work out who it's going to be that goes up and opens the batting. So there might be a slot somewhere. If it's one of their incumbent players that moves up, Jarrell could go into the middle, or if they want to go with a specialist opener, we saw the guys that were on display out here in that A series.
All right, we've asked you this question 2 times now, and you've stuck to that 3-1 scoreline. What are your predictions at this moment? We asked Ravi earlier in the day. He said 3-1 as well, but he was hoping it was in favor of the other side.
Yeah. I thought that'd be the case. I remember having this exact conversation actually with Sonny Gavaskar last time India were out. I think we were in Adelaide. Might have been the first test was in Adelaide, and India had just been bowled out for 36. And I think my prediction at the start was that was 4 test matches last time, wasn't it? So I think I might have said 2-1 at the start, and then Sonny looked at me and said, "Oh, no, it'll be 2-1, but it'll be 2-1 India." And I thought there was no way in the world that they could bounce back after losing the way they did in Adelaide, but they did. So Sonny got the better of me there. So I hope Ravi doesn't get the better of me this time. So I'm going to stick with the 3-1 Australia. I think just the little bit of not so much uncertainty because I'm pretty sure India will be pretty certain of what team they're going to play. They've known for a while that Rohit probably wasn't going to be here. They've probably known for a while that Bumrah was going to be captain. So they've probably known what holes they've needed to fill. The one that they've probably been waiting on the most was Shami and Shami's fitness, but they've probably known that for a couple of months that he probably wasn't going to get up either. So they'll be reasonably settled, but I just think there's potential for more disruption through their campaign with Sharma coming back and whatever else. So I'll stick with it. Great challenge from McSweeney. Labuschagne and Smith need to make runs for Australia. And their bowling attack obviously is as good as anyone's in the world. So I'll stick with my 3-1 Australia prediction.
Ricky, thank you so much for talking to us. That's everything we have for you on this episode of the ICC Review. As always, wonderful insight.
Thank you very much.